Pick the most valuable. Okay, so your goal might be if it's worth enough to get it sold. So you know you have a Rembrandt of some sort. You're not sure if you have a restrike, which is one from the original plates. You would expect you don't have one from the 1640s, just based on how nice and bright this piece of paper is. But you have right down here where it says Rembrandt, right, in the actual plate. And you have a nice frame, which is new. You have an acidic matte, so it's framed before the 1980s, but I think this thing was probably wrapped up somewhere and not really touched for a long, long time. Maybe it came out of a dealership. Maybe it came out of somebody who was thinking to sell it. It's in very, very good condition. I mean, these are frames that are, you know, reproduction style frames, but they look good. Okay, so what you have here is a typical Rembrandt engraving, right? So this particular piece, I'm sorry, I already misspoke. What you have here is a typical Rembrandt etching. And this particular typical Rembrandt etching does not date to the lifetime of Rembrandt. Okay, he lives from 1609 to 1669. All right, so now what you have here is you have a piece which is at some point in that history redone from his plates. And we know, of course, how etchings are done. You carve into the plate with a burr and you ink the plate, you impress it onto a piece of paper. In the 19th century, or in the 1800s, 200 or some odd years after his death, Rembrandt restrikes or reproductions of those particular plates are actually in the market. One of the most evident places for these pieces to be distributed is Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So we see Pennsylvania having a lot of these pieces, right? This particular piece is not from the 1800s. This particular piece is a restrike from the early part of the 2000s. So I don't have something from the 1880s, Dr. Laurie, and I don't have something from the 1660s, Dr. Laurie, but instead I have something from like 2000? Yeah, what happened was there was an outfit that actually supported these particular pieces and sold them through cruise ships in the late 90s and early 2000s. So you could go on a cruise ship and you could be having, you know, your Mai Tai on the pool deck and going off to the Caribbean to, I don't know, see St. Thomas and come back and participate in an art auction on the ship, and you could buy one of these for about $300 to $500. You would get a Rembrandt, and I use the air quotes, right? This particular piece. Look at how bright and white the actual piece is, and look at, in fact, the matte. Here's where it gets tricky, sweetheart. It gets tricky because what you have is an old matte, a new print, and a new frame. So the matte was already here, the frame was fixed up, right? And then what you have is a new piece put into an old matte. You get me? It makes it a little harder because when you look at it, you go, hey, that matte looks old, maybe that print is old. The print is new, the matte is old. The frame is the thing that's going to confuse you. Sometimes that happens. What's this worth? Probably about $200. What did you pay? $5. Okay, with this frame, you got a deal, because that's a nice frame. Now, if I were holding an actual Rembrandt from circa 1640 to 1660, we'd be talking $30,000 to $50,000 in good condition. And this is a big one. This is a large scale. It's not one of the small scale, it's big, right? If I were talking about and holding one that was from the 1880s, that Rembrandt might be worth somewhere in the neighborhood of between $400 to $600. You still did pretty darn well for a couple bucks here, a couple bucks there. And I always tell you, if you're going to invest in fine art. Even if it's the $5 at the yard sale or the flea market or the thrift store, okay? The pieces that are the reproductions and, oh, I have to have another Pez dispenser and let me get another, stuffed animal of, I don't know, a Peanuts character. Get the artwork, it's better. Thank you, hon. I hope you learned something from that. What's original about this? Looks like an original watercolor, maybe. That's a quote. That's what he just said to me. It looks like an original watercolor, maybe. So, he was kind of confident in the beginning of that sentence, and then by the end we got a big maybe. So you think it's an original watercolor, maybe. Cannot recognize the signature. Now what do we do? Richard D. Lehotag. There we go. Lehotay. Lehotay. All right. What do we know about this person? Right off the bat. You don't have to know anything about this particular person. You don't have to his biography, when he lived, what. But you're going to know some things about this person just by me holding this object. What do you know? Anybody? You may not know the artist's name, but what do you know about this particular artist? Not bad, right? Pretty straightforward, right? Representational. It looks a realistic image of Sinatra. What's his work? What does he do for his work? How does he make a dime? How does he feed himself? Is he an illustrator? Yeah. Well, he's a professional commercial artist, right? Illustrator. And what is this particular piece representing? It's a poster, right? It's a concert poster. It's not watercolor, it's marker, right? It's ink. So basically what he's done is, if you look very carefully, you can actually see the outline, and then he's colored this in. This particular element, is this a drawing or is this actually a photograph that then has been superimposed? It's a photograph, okay? That then he's using as part of this. This is pre-Photoshop, right? This particular piece has a date on it, and this particular piece is pretty nice. Now, you liked it because it reminds you of your parents, and they knew Sinatra and all of this. You better hurry up and sell this thing. You know why? The millennials don't know who the heck Frank Sinatra is anymore, right? You're running out of time. And people go, what do you mean I'm running out of time? A lot of these celebrities are not as well known. My Italian family, I grew up with Sinatra, but I'm an old maid over here, right? So you want to think about that. Value on this piece, about $200. What did you pay? $5. It was worth it, okay? Here's what's interesting about this. There's no year on this, but we all know the year that it happened because we just experienced the anniversary of this. When should you have sold this? July, darling. July of 2019 was when you should have sold this, right? But you're like, well, it's interesting, and I like the astronauts, and it's a cool thing, and you probably got it for very little in a box lot. Box lots, of course, at auctions are those particular lots that come in a box, and all different things, usually the smalls or the things that they don't think they can market very well, are those particular pieces that go into the box. People like you who say, you know what, I'm going to go through the box and I'm going to see if I can glean important information or important objects from the box. And hence, this is what you have. If you were to have sold this in July of 2019, right, the 50th anniversary, of course, you probably would have been able to command somewhere around $75. Today, it's worth about $40. There's a difference when you basically don't hit the market at the right time. Because now you got to wait at least 25 more years until we get to, I know you're laughing at me, till you get to another 25 years till you get to the 75th anniversary for that. And then as we're talking about prints, because that's what that is, that's a printed piece, this particular piece is Brian's. Hi, Brian. What do you know about Pierre Bonnard, an artist of the Nabi? Speak loudly for me. Did you just say he's dead? Yes, he's dead, Brian. I used to love that. When I taught at Penn State, I used to say that to the football players. Dr. Verderame, is Monet dead? Yes, he's dead. Is Picasso dead? Yes, he's dead. Is everybody dead? Most people are dead. Let's get on with this. So he's dead. Huh? He's French. A member of the Nabi. The Nabi is an artist group that works after the French Impressionists and prior to the early years of the 20th century, before 1900, around that time period. There are other members of the Nabi, along with, of course, Pierre Bonnard. So how did you acquire this? What is it? What type of work of art is it? You know it's a Bonnard. You know he was French. But what kind of work of art have you got here? Okay, so you know it's a print, but you're not sure what type. All right. You went to Walmart and you bought a toaster, and you get it home and you open the box, and in the toaster is a blow dryer. Now what do? You go back to Walmart, right? Or you go to Walmart, you open the box before you buy it, and you say, I got to make sure that this is really a toaster and not something else. You don't do that in the flea market. You see a frame, you see a piece, you see some color, and you buy it. And you're not sure what it is, but you know it's a print. Okay? All right. So, how much did you invest?
Under $5.
Under $5. Did you negotiate? You didn't have to negotiate. You're like, I don't have the heart to do this, Lori. It was $5, right? You could have gotten it for $2, but okay. I'm the only frugal one in the world, fine. This particular example here is a print. Did you use a loop? Did you get a magnifying glass? You did, but you couldn't make heads or tails. Did you know that there were no brush strokes?
Yeah, I mean, I could see that it was a print, that there were dots.
You could see that there were dots. This is called an oleograph, and it happens to be obscured because it is under glass. An oleograph is a fake painting. Oleograph. Oleo means fake or faux or false. So an oleograph here, which is where they take actual prints, they print them onto a piece of canvas, they take Dacmar varnish, like clear nail polish, if you've seen that. You don't seem like a clear nail polish kind of guy to me, Brian, but you know. And they basically simulate the brush strokes. Oleographs, once they're under a piece of glass, can really look like a painting, which might have been why you went down that path. This particular piece is worth about the $10, well, the $5 to $10 that you invested in it, 15 for the frame and another 10 for the oleograph. This particular work of art, I would not be surprised if this is one of the studies for the still lifes that's in the Musée d'Orsay in Paris. Okay? Picture of a famous picture. But nice, decorative, not hurting anybody, right? From the backboard, when was it put into this frame? Probably circa 1960s. Okay? Not bad. Thank you, Brian.